Hi everybody, welcome back to the show. You can see I'm here in absolutely incredible, beautiful surroundings, and here today to talk to you about dark night of the soul. So I'm in a bit of a sunny place to be talking about this, but here we are. The theme doesn't need to interact with where I am. So I've just been swimming in this ridiculously still, crystal clear water today. It's absolutely amazing. So blessed to just be surrounded by such beauty and be in it. So I'm feeling really inspired to share with you an experience that thankfully is now sort of passing, but within that its own nature itself, that it does pass, but it feels like it won't at the time. So dark night of the soul, this term often gets bandied around and can mean many things to different people, I'm sure. So it can be a long period of time where you're going through something really challenging. It can also be like a poignant point in time that something really shifts for you, like it can't get any worse. So it's thought of a time when we're going into our underworld. So in psychology and in spirituality, we talk about the fact that we have our subconscious and our unconscious mind. So our conscious mind is the one that is aware of what's going on. We have an unconscious mind, so when we're maybe not aware and we're so involved in something, not in a sort of awakened way, that we're doing things out of habit. And our subconscious, which can often be talked about as our underworld, where there are things, let's say deeper down, that are maybe affecting us, that do affect us, that basically drive everything we do. So wouldn't it be wonderful if we could have access to that? And this is what a lot of psychotherapy and trauma therapy and also a lot of spiritual practice go into, to sort of access, as well as hypnotherapy and things like that, accessing this subconscious. Even in internal family systems goes into this area where we're accessing our parts, our inner, deeper parts, maybe the parts that are running the show in ways that that are causing us to act or do things or have results in our life that maybe aren't what we want. So really, really important work, and something that a lot of people might not ever touch on. But dark night of the soul is when this really becomes something that you can't ignore. So this often happens with these sort of deeper subconscious things, maybe traumas that have happened in the past, conditioning that we have from developmental times in our childhood, conditioning from long-term stress, or things that we've been through that have sort of been prolonged or really acute. And these can form imprints and patterns in our subconscious, where we're basically either ignoring parts of those things. So we're maybe ignoring parts of ourselves, behaviours that we have, that we've learnt, maybe ignoring a trauma because we just couldn't deal with it at the time, which is really understandable and very natural thing to happen. When we can't deal with something at the time, it goes deep down. We sort of suppress it at the time because we couldn't handle it or deal with it, or didn't have the tools, or we were going through such a prolonged period of trauma that we couldn't deal with it. So in Dark Night of the Soul, these things become unignorable because they come up. So it might be that an actual physical thing in your life, like an illness or a trauma, a tragedy, an injury, an accident, maybe your own sort of neuroses just become so much that you just can't bear it any longer, and you go into this sort of, I do this motion. If you're listening to this, I'm doing a sort of like going deeper down motion, going deeper into yourself in a way that you maybe didn't choose to. So a lot of the time, well, all of the time, Dark Night of the Soul is not something we're maybe choosing. So for me personally, this is something that I've experienced many times. It doesn't have to just be a one-time thing. For some people it is. For some people it's many small things or many big times. But the nature of it is that I've been doing healing work for a long time, for my whole life really, for a very long time. So it's sort of things that I may be aware of, but all of a sudden through whatever is going on at the time, I'm brought into a sort of more acute awareness of this, no longer avoidable, no longer ignorable, and you're plunged into this sort of dark night of the soul. So for me recently, I'm just going to talk about my most recent experience of this to give you a bit of a flavour of what this can feel like, because for a lot of people it can be really, really confusing, it can be really off-putting and throw you, and really, really distressing, which it is. I think no matter how many times you've gone through this, it's distressing. What's interesting is no matter how many times you go through it, you always push it away, most of the time anyway. That in my experience, I can know what this is like, I can talk about it now, and then it will rear its head and I will push it away and not wish it wasn't happening. So that's the first thing. It can be something that is really painful. So for me in this experience, it was my own physical fatigue journey. So this like debilitating fatigue that I've been experiencing, that comes with a kind of like internal vibrations, a weakness, very much weakness. So I feel like I can't even have the energy to like hold a TV remote or sort of put the kettle on and pour a cup of tea. So it's a real debilitating fatigue that comes with a heightened tension. So lots of tension in my jaw, shoulders, stomach issues, so bloating, constipation, real gargling, and not that sort of transit that would normally be there. And this comes with a critical voice that is questioning and debating what I did to get here. So I can be thinking over what I ate to be so bloated and constipated, everything that I've been doing, how I did it wrong, what I could have done better, what I shouldn't have said to someone, what I shouldn't have shared. Even doing this brought up a whole load of stuff, you know, honestly sharing stories, other people's reflections on those stories, like how it makes them feel, what they think of it, what they think of me. And it actually came to a head one night after a few days of also having hormonal imbalance. So this really causes a deep despair for myself. When I have low estrogen, I start getting my hot flushing symptoms. It comes with a real like helpless, dark, despair, dread feeling. So I get a dread every time I wake up, and I'm sort of questioning what I'm doing. I just question everything, you know, everything is in question. So this came to a head one night after a few days of this, and I was just in agony, emotional, sort of spiritual, mental, physical, just wanting everything to not be there. And I think that's the real flavour of it. Like, I want this to not be the way it is. And just getting plunged darker into it because of that feeling. Yeah, I'm like wishing it away, I'm pushing it away, I'm wanting it to be different, I'm wishing I could have done something different, I'm analysing all the ways in which I could have acted differently, chosen differently, eaten differently, thought differently, and then wondering like why I have to keep going through this, like why me, what am I not learning? You can see it's a whole like spiral, down. So I went to bed and I'd just been feeling like utterly crappy all day for the last few days. Sean was away travelling, so I wouldn't have my normal maybe support that I would have where I could maybe talk to him about it. And also that sort of co-regulation of somebody hugging you and stroking you and being there for you. So really isolated physically, but feeling isolated internally. And it just got so bad that I just couldn't bear it. I literally couldn't bear it. I was tense in my arms. I could feel my belly gargling and pushing out. I was so bloated. I could feel my heat rising and falling with these hot flushes. My head was spinning with all different sort of categorizing of everything I'd done wrong and what I could change and what I should change, and how I was not doing enough of my practices to help myself, you know, prevent this. And I just thought, a thought or a feeling arose. I can't fight this anymore. I can't figure it out. There's nothing I can do about this. It's too much. So I just won't do anything. And in that instant moment, there was like a rushing of energy through my body. Peace arose within my mind, where everything that I'd been struggling and battling just let go. It's amazing that I've just said that and the sun has gone in. behind the mountain. And Kundalini energy rose through my spine. I was sort of shaking, tingling in my head, tingling in my body. My tummy just softened. I stopped trying to like hold my tummy a different way. All of the tension in my jaw, my shoulders and my neck just eased. It was as if I was holding it all. So although I didn't want it there, by not wanting it to be, I was actually holding it and making it worse. Wow, it was such a release. I just entered into this like bliss, peace state. So spacious. Everything, all the walls that were like falling in on me just moved. And I started crying. I was holding myself and just being in awe of the bliss and surrender and everything that was just coming through me and out of me, and all of it was just passing. It just passed. It was like the trying to hold it and change it and wish it away and want it to be different. I couldn't do that any longer. I'd ran to come to the end of the road, I'd come up against the wall, and my letting go actually like blew the walls away from everything I was experiencing. It was so profound. This isn't the first time it's happened. This has happened many times before, but it's not something that in that moment you're in such the darkness that I couldn't even remember that I'd had that experience, months before or weeks before. I've been having quite a lot of these experiences over the last couple of years, being so unwell and sort of having to question everything and let go of everything. It's been one big, long, dark night of the soul. So in total, I'm going through a bigger one that has these like smaller instances within it. And I just lay there and was in such peace. Like my whole jaw, I could just feel like all this tingling and space in my jaw and my chest and my neck, because it always feels so, it's been feeling more and more like constricted and rigid. It was just amazing. And I couldn't have made that happen. I had to sort of be pushing through and being, going into it. I just decided that I would just go into it. That's how I'd started the evening. Like, I'm just going to look at all of the pain that's here, because I'm trying to push it away and like distract myself. It's not working. So I'd lay like noticing it all and calling it all out. And it was in that moment of like calling it all out and feeling like my belly, and as I sort of told you, all of those things, feeling them, really noticing them, noticing where they were, that like that just gave the space and gave way to me having the experience of just letting go of it all and knowing that I'm so much more than that I'm not this kind of bundle of me feeling all of this stuff and trying to push it away. Actually, that I couldn't push it away any longer. I pushed, I didn't push into it. I just surrendered into it. Like, okay, let's just see what's here. There's headache, there's thumping head, there's all these thoughts. It just felt like I just wanted to scream my head off, and I had actually screamed my head off earlier that day. And by just actually sitting with that, I got the space, it just, who I really am, that true nature of who we really are, that's so much more than all of that pain, came through because I went through the pain. So that's saying that the only way through pain is just that, through it. So we can't push it away, we can't avoid it, we can't pretend it's not there, we can't distract from it. Well, we can, but how long will that last? And what comes out the other side isn't instantaneous healing. It doesn't mean that won't come up again, that I won't go through these things again. But every time, so for the day after, I had like a real peace. I could keep touching back into that peace. Although those things were still arising, like my tummy was still bloated and still had a headache and was still, the same neuroses were there, but they had less of a grip on me. I realised that there was a difference between that, the experience of that, and who I was. So the witness me could see it, and actually even that had been blown out of the water with awareness of just pervading into all that is, that sort of bliss state, that enlightened bliss state is all I can say. It's just peace and spaciousness. So I really hope that this can sort of give you a bit more of an idea about what a dark night of the soul is, and also that leaning into it when that does arise for you, those most painful experiences can actually end up being the most blissful. Like, pain is a messenger. I wrote a post about this on my Instagram. Pain is a messenger. It's not to be pushed away. Obviously, it's much, in our culture, we treat pain as something that has to be like covered and pushed away and gotten rid of. But if we can actually watch it and listen to it, like I had to lie there and listen. I had no other option than to go, okay, my belly is like this, and this is painful, and it's like dark red, and it's big, and it's spiky. You know, all of that naming really, really helps. But just being in that, leaning into that pain. And I don't mean lean in like pushing, but just letting go into it, just falling into it, because what we fear is actually the ego being dissolved. So the ego is fearful. The ego is like, let's sort this out. Let's do something different. Let's, you know, you can do this and you can do this, and that keeps the ego busy. The ego wants you to be like doing and keep going and keep imagining that everything will always be the same. But if we can just let go of all of that, and I don't mean don't do the things that take care of yourself, but actually being with my experience in its rawness and painfulness is the ultimate gift of taking care of yourself. Just being in that moment, being with yourself, with whatever is present, with the moment, is after all like the whole of spiritual practice, really, isn't it? It's just learning to be with this moment and not allowing our mind to tell us we want it to always be something different, even when that's pain. So I hope this brings you some element of sort of soothing or information or companionship, to know that you're not alone on this journey, that in that dark night of the soul there are other people going through that, have been through it, and are here for you. So as ever, there will be a discussion around this on our group, and I'll drop the link to that in the bottom in the show notes. So however or whatever way you're here with me today, you can find those details to come and join us to talk about this, to discuss, to find our weekly groups, and however we're connecting, you are welcome. All of you is welcome, as always. I hope you found this helpful. Please do comment. Please do let me know how you found this. Please do come and join along for the conversations. And as ever, Namaste.